Good evening, everybody. The Music Fan is back, bringing smiles to the faces, knowledge to the people, and most importantly, music to the masses. And I am back with another Are You In? Now, tonight and Wednesday, I'm going to be going over two albums that recently came out from big, heavy-hitting names in the indie rock scene. Bands that have had a cult following for basically a decade now and have put out some incredible albums, at least to the fans, as well as music critics and the music industry in general. These are albums that have had a lot of high rankings in the end of year lists and have had a couple of awards for their work. So the first one I'm going to be looking at is Vampire Weekend's newest album entitled Father of the Bride. Now, Vampire Weekend is an indie pop slash indie rock slash baroque pop, art pop band from New York City. Members include Ezra Koenig on lead vocals, guitar, and piano, Chris Thompson on drums, percussion, and backing vocals, and Chris Baio on bass and backing vocals. Previous albums include Vampire Weekend in 2008, Contra in 2010, and Modern Vampires of the City in 2013. Now, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with this band. I never got into them at the beginning. I knew about A-Punk, but that was basically it in terms of songs that I knew. The first album that I listened to of theirs is Modern Vampires of the City, and I found it underwhelming. It was not even close to my top 50 of 2013, even though so many people lost their collective shits over this album. I remember Rolling Stone having it as the #1 album of that year, and I didn't understand why. But as the years have gone on, my palate has grown more for indie rock, and I think I would definitely like to eventually come back to it because I would love to see what all the fuss is about, especially Contra as well. I have not listened to that album, even though I do enjoy the occasional Vampire Weekend song that comes on the radio at my work. So this is their first album in 6 years, and the first one without one of their founding members, Rostam Batmanglij. Hopefully I got that right. I have no idea. I made an effort to take a listen to it. It is a very long CD, 18 tracks, about an hour's worth of material, but is it worth the time? Well, yes and no. When you have a CD that's 18 tracks long, almost 60 minutes worth of material, you have to make sure that the core work is great and the filler is interesting enough to keep you going. And already you start off kind of in a lackluster place, if you will, for me. The first song is Hold You Now, one of 3 duets with Danielle Haim, who is part of Haim, who has had a great amount of success over the last 5 years. Ezra and Danielle do very well on all 3 of these duets, Hold You Now, then Married in a Gold Rush, and We Belong Together. I think their connection and the conversational ideas on these songs work very well. Hold You Now being about a guy and a girl who used to date, and the guy coming back to her on her wedding day, asking her not to marry this particular person, but to come back with him. The second one, Married in a Gold Rush, is talking about 2 people getting married at the best times of their lives and at the peak of their love, and then realizing that not every day can be the peak. So trying to find a more realistic love and getting back on track. And then We Belong Together is about 2 people coming together and belonging in such a way. Very, very mundane song. A topic and an idea that has been used a lot over the decades. Each one of these songs, for the most part, feels kind of folky or country, if you will, and to mixed results. Hold You Now is the worst out of these 3. I don't like the pause it takes and the weird like interlude parts that are a little bit live / not. And I think the choir idea is very grating. It is an electronically altered choir, and it doesn't really work at all in this song. I think the melody's good, but I think everything else around it leaves a lot to be desired. We Belong Together is super simple in terms of arrangement, but the production is very weird. It's really, really tinny, and it's not the only song on the album that has that tinny sound. But what song salvages the connection between these two is Married in the Gold Rush. Again, not necessarily the most interesting arrangement, but I think the melody and the conversation there works so well. The melody is beautiful, the harmonies between them work very well, and it's a fun, kind of more modern country song. And Danielle also is on a lot of the background material. Harmony Hall, This Life, Sympathy, Flower Moon, Stranger, and Jerusalem, New York, Berlin. She sings a lot of background parts. So she is a breath of fresh air on this album, and I love all the parts that she does on here for the most part. Another person that is on the CD a lot is Steve Lacy, who sings the main vocals on Sunflower, one of my favorite songs on this album. It feels very much like an Animal Collective song at times, with a little bit of a mix of a Dirty Projector song as well. It's just very free and very fun, but at the same time very intricate in parts. The guitar parts is very classical sounding, but also has a lot of activity, which is why I feel those Dirty Projector parts as well as Animal Collective parts. Even the way that Steve Lacy is singing sounds very reminiscent of an Animal Collective song. I love the jazzy chords on the chorus, as well as the slowed down last refrain. And the lyrics themselves fit this very jovial song well. It's about finding peace in life like a sunflower. He is also on Flower Moon, which is very annoying to me. It's another one that has really weird production to me. And the island idea that a lot of, at least from what I've heard, a lot of Vampire Weekend songs have, I can't think of a better way of putting it rather than like an islandy Caribbean type of style. I like that feel, but what I have a problem with is the lyrics are too repetitive, the harmony ideas are really weird, and the auto-tune at the beginning just destroys whatever I would like of this song. There are some other highlights though. You got my favorite song being Harmony Hall, which another one of these that feels like a song from the previous Dirty Projectors album in terms of the guitar work, just these flowing guitar lines at the beginning, the piano ideas that use the melody idea in a very interesting way and kind of a classical way as well, and then the later more intricate guitar work at the end. What I also love is that this arrangement keeps just going and building and having new ideas, new percussive layers that make it so interesting and such a fun journey to traverse. It's also very interesting to me that when I looked at the Vampire Weekend's wiki page, the first associated act was Dirty Projectors, so I don't know exactly where the connection is, but it's cool that I heard that idea and that my hearing is kind of valid on it. This is one of the few songs that talks about the state of America in the Trump presidency. This one particularly talking about the resurgence of hate groups in places of power and just the feeling of unease that's going on. Bambina is also one of these songs where it's talking about political unrest and trying to find the right time to talk about it. A fun interlude-ish song that I do enjoy that has, again, a lot of really good layering going on, and the melody's a lot of fun to listen to as well. Sympathy is kind of talking about how we connect in the world, especially in this time, realizing that all the people in different religious sects are just human, and learning that you're looking in the mirror when you're talking to certain people of different religions. This song is a very interesting one to me, just in the style. There's a lot that I don't like about it. I don't like the electronic choirs on there. I don't like any of the electronic parts. I think a lot of it's really grating at times, but I like the overall feel of the song that is very flamenco-esque with the way that the guitar is strumming as well as the castanet ideas. I also like the dynamic difference when you get to the chorus where it's just vocals and a finger-picked idea on the guitar. What I also like is it's kind of a different vibe of this 12-bar blues idea. It's a more modern idea and plays around with those chords that you would hear in a blues progression. 2021 is talking about the passing of time, and it could be the next wave of president, because that would be technically the start of the next president if we do vote for somebody else. Who knows? That song feels a little bit Drake-esque in terms of the minimalist ideas, but it's so repetitive, way too repetitive. Luckily, it's only a interlude song. And then the closer also deals with talking about politics. Jerusalem, New York, Berlin, where it's talking about the state of the world now and hoping that patterns of animosity and racism and genocide don't come into the present, particularly talking about the Jewish community and using Jerusalem, New York, Berlin, epicenters of very big Jewish events and current Jewish events as the source of the material. It's a beautiful closer, but one that feels a little bit tense in terms of the activity because there's a beautiful piano part going on, but also these like kind of active electronic parts underneath it that are going on at the same time, and it feels like it wants to come to a head, but it never does, which could be a metaphor of things boiling under the surface without actually getting to that point. I'm not sure, but kind of doesn't work for me. And then, like with Hold You Now, Marion and Gold Rush, and We Belong Together, a lot of the other songs are dealing with relationships. One of the standout ones being This Life, which is coming to grips with past mistakes between two people and realizing that it could be a character flaw. So the idea of where that comes from is the pre-chorus idea where it's like, you've been cheating on me, I've been cheating on you, you've been cheating on me, but I've been cheating through this life. And I think that's an interesting and introspective way of dealing with relationships. Kind of a straightforward arrangement, but one of the better ones, and one that has a lot of interesting guitar work as well as drum work, where sometimes it's a little bit more energetic, sometimes it's more laid back, brush drums, if you will. I also really enjoy the melody on here. How Long is talking about financial success and not necessarily leading to romantic success if everything in the relationship isn't going well. Unbearably White is talking about a breakup and how everything is a little bit more unbearable as you're going on, whether it's the barely whiteness of the snow or the bearably whiteness of a journal page as you're writing down things. And then also Rich Man kind of fits that mold where romantic success, how much of it is due to success and how much is it due to luck, and just how the goalposts are changing in terms of financial success, where it's not millionaire anymore, but it's billionaire. All three of these songs kind of are the same to me, where there's some interesting ideas, but not enough to make them some of the better songs. How Long has some very lackluster electronic parts, even though the melody's pretty good. Unbearably White is interesting in terms of chord progression, but is a little bit too repetitive. And Rich Man is kind of interesting in the actual production of it, where it sounds a little bit like something that you would hear on an old-time record player. And even like the strings kind of feel like an old 1920s song. My Mistake I can also throw in there as well. It's a song about something happening when people were young and a mistake that happened, maybe cheating on a partner. It's interesting enough. It stands a little bit above everything else in terms of the last three I just said, because I do enjoy the chord progression and I enjoy the jazz piano nature of it, even if it gets a little bit too cheesy at times. But what kind of destroys this song for me is these weird interludes where the song gets a little bit faster and then just drops out with no sound whatsoever. I think the actual arrangement is a little bit too weird. And then Spring Snow would be the last one of these songs about love. The arrangement is so annoying though. It's so bad. Too much useless auto-tune and so much annoying electronics, even with this interesting bolero idea with a lackluster chord progression. I hate that because the lyrics in here are very interesting about a day where you're able to hold a loved one for one more time that's unexpected because of a snowstorm, but knowing that you have to return to normal tomorrow and that everything will go back to normal once that happens. The only other song I haven't talked about is Stranger, one of my favorite songs on the album as well, that is talking about finding comfortableness in strange situations. Another one that has an island beat that I really enjoy, but what stands out to me is the a cappella parts in the chorus. A lot of fun to listen to. Overall, this is a very diverse album and has a lot of different flares, whether it's bolero or flamenco, or if it's more islandy feel, jazz ballad, country. You're getting a lot of different feels, but I think what the biggest problem with it is you're throwing too much in there. You're throwing the kitchen sink out there, and not all of it sticks. To me, there's honestly 5 songs that I find memorable. Harmony Hall, Sunflower, Married in Gold Rush, This Life, and Stranger. I think songs 6 through 12 have some great stuff, but has one problem or another that drops it down. Bambina, Sympathy, My Mistake, Rich Man, How Long, Unbearably White, and Jerusalem, New York, Berlin all suffer from one problem or another. And the last 6 songs, just get rid of them. I know that gets rid of 2 Danielle Haim songs and 1 Steve Lacy song, but Danielle Haim is there enough for you to enjoy what she's doing. If you took those 6 songs, threw them away, that's 12 songs that when you have Jerusalem, New York, Berlin being your 12th best song, which is the closer, I think that works. I think cutting like 15-20 minutes of this album would work wonders for this album. But there's just way too much there. And that's a shame because I think a lot of the lyrics are very interesting. I think a lot of the topics are very interesting. It's just too much of it. You're boiling over with too much material. And apparently there's even like 5 deluxe songs, which now you're pushing it. Like, cool, Jude Law is on one of them. Really cool, but you're pushing it. Just a little bit more concise. I think that's the biggest problem with this album. But if you like Vampire Weekend, I think you'll enjoy this. I think there's enough diversity where at least one of the songs will catch on for you. But if you can't take my word for it, listen to Harmony Hall, listen to This Life, listen to Sunflower, listen to the singles first, and then see if you want to take the time to listen to a 60-minute CD. But that is my time. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry if this went on a little bit long. This was one I had to dissect a lot. Let me know if you like or hate this album and why. Share this with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to my channel so you can see more of these videos in the future. So Wednesday and Sunday, I'll be back with 2 Are You Ins. Ones I wanted to talk about this week, but these albums have a lot to pick apart before I can come up with a concise video about it. And the first one is going to be a little bit of a 180 in terms of the indie rock, but another big name. But until then, you'll just have to find out on Wednesday. I am the Music Fan, and I'm signing off.